Welcome to Bowhunter Magazine's Ultimate Hunting Adventures video collection. Through these videos, produced especially for hardcore bow hunters, you'll discover the excitement of true big game bow hunting. Travel across the United States, Canada, and beyond in search of big game adventure. Join us for bow hunts in Alaska, Alabama, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Wyoming, Texas, even the plains of Africa, and other tremendous hunting locations. Witness rutting bucks and bugling bulls being called into range. Watch as big Bruins and giant moose are arrowed at point-blank distance. And come along on bow hunts for trophy-class elk, turkeys, and other amazing big game animals. You'll get all the adrenaline-pumping excitement of trophy big game bow hunting, along with insightful tips from the pros designed to help you become a more successful bow hunter. Techniques on stalking, still hunting, tree stand hunting, shooting, game calling, rattling, and more. Discover the excitement, thrill, humor, and sometimes humility that comes from the great sport of bow hunting. So sit back and enjoy this edition of Bowhunter Magazine's Ultimate Hunting Adventures video collection. It's been produced especially for you.
It is late January in Mississippi, the end of another long bow hunting season for the bowhunter staff. Morning deer activity is nearly over when this little buck moves through the same area where a true record book candidate had been spotted earlier. While Jeff sits tight, waiting and hoping the trophy buck will reappear, Dwight already has arrived back at the late morning pickup spot just ahead of MR.
Well, here comes the old grandpap himself.
How you doing, young fella?
Well, how'd your morning go?
Well, I saw a couple of bucks, but nothing too big, so I didn't release an arrow. How about you?
It's about the same. I saw one small one, but he didn't come within range anyway, so.
Can you believe this weather? I mean, here it is January.
It's January 22nd.
It's just a little different than out where we live in the Rocky Mountains.
Well, it's sort of a contrast with my last whitetail hunt. That was in Idaho, up where I live.
Right.
That was in November. It was quite a bit different up there.
Now, I know you took a buck, but you never did tell me about it. Why don't you? We got some time. Jeff's not here yet.
Yeah, I wonder where he's at.
He probably got a deer down, knowing him.
He's always a little slow, but anyway, we got some time, I imagine.
Tell me about your buck.
Well, Larry Jones and I went up to central Idaho, up toward Grangeville, middle of the state there. It's a place I've hunted quite a bit because the snow in the high country in middle of November usually pushes the deer down in the winter range. They get pretty concentrated in there. So it's a really great place. Of course, this year there wasn't any snow, so there weren't any deer either. But anyway,
Just makes it challenging.
I told Larry it's a great place. There aren't any deer here, but anyway, it's a place where you hike in 2 or 3 miles, put a tree stand on our back, and then we just head out across the woods and can usually get away from most of the hunters that way.
Right.
And so we were hiking in a couple of miles, putting up tree stands and just kind of roaming and calling, and weren't seeing a whole lot of deer. And finally, on about the 5th day we hunted, I guess, I called in a little 8-pointer. Came in about 17 yards, and Larry was videoing him, and I had a pretty good shot at him, but I decided not to shoot him because I thought we'd see bigger ones because I've seen him in the past. And he wandered off, and then Larry looked at me and said, "Well, how come you didn't shoot that buck?" And I said, "Well, he wasn't big enough." He said, "It's the first buck we've seen in 5 days. You should have shot him."
Right.
I said, "Oh, we'll see a bigger one, Larry. We'll see a bigger one, I know."
And they did. Unfortunately, this trophy buck is on the trail of a hot doe and won't pay any attention to Dwight's calling efforts.
So we hunted a couple more days, and finally it got to be the 19th of November, which was one day of the season left. It closes on the 20th. And we had moved our stands to a place there was real nice thick brush there, and then a whole bunch of scrapes around in this brush. We thought it looked like a pretty hot spot. So we moved our stands into that place and rattled and called, and sure enough, here comes a buck. And he walked up to 12 yards, and as soon as I saw he had antlers, I said, well, I think I better shoot this to make Larry happy. And he came into a scrape there that we'd made and put some scent over it. And he walked through that scrape and I shot him.
Dwight's shot is good. After a brief wait, he climbs down to take up the trail.
Of course, when we reviewed the video, we realized it was exactly the same buck I passed up 2 days before.
And Jones never said a word about it.
No, he didn't say a word about it, no. So
Well,
anyway, we had a great hunt, but it's quite a contrast because there you could just tip this country on its side, and it's about like that in Idaho, and the weather was quite a bit cooler, and it was pouring down rain, but we had a good hunt. That's the one successful hunt that I had this fall, so I cherish that one little 8-pointer I got in Idaho.
Dwight Shue was a successful bow hunter because he pays attention to details. Let's listen to some good advice from this widely traveled veteran bow hunter.
Traveled 200 miles to my hunting area. I always like to double check my bow. It was sighted in when I left, but you never know what happens when you're traveling, so I use my rangefinder to mark off exact distances. Now I'm going to check my sights to make sure I'm dead on. I certainly don't want to get into a tree stand and find that something's moved on me. Looks like I'm pretty close. Shoot a couple arrows, and I do this with broadheads too. I want to make sure that I'm dead on with the broadheads in case they're not hitting exactly where my field points do. Well, that looks pretty good. I think my sights are still on, so I can get up in my tree stand and shoot at a deer with confidence. So now I'm going to do a little bit of pre-scouting on my maps, try to find some good areas to go to, put some camouflage on, get my tree stand, and go hunting.
You know, Larry and I were down in Kansas first week in November, and you'd think it'd be prime time. We were supposed to be down there. Rut was starting to kick in. It was 70, 80 degrees most of the time. We rattled in some deer, but boy, it was tough.
This buck is sure feeling the rutting urge, but it's early in the hunt, and MR decides to simply watch, even when the buck later walks under his stand just at dusk. Savvy bow hunters are safe bow hunters. Listen to a few words of wisdom from a man who has successfully bow hunted across North America for over 40 years.
One of the things you never do is climb a tree carrying your bow. Always have a haul line for your bow and any gear. You don't want to risk a fall and injury. Just not smart. You notice one of the first things I did when I got in the stand was to rig up my safety harness and hook it to the tree. You don't want to take any chances. First thing when you get in your stand, hook yourself in, then pull your gear up and get ready to hunt. Have a safe hunt.
Successful bow hunters like MR and Dwight know how effective rattling and calling deer can be. Here's a related tip from noted bow hunter Larry D. Jones.
Got my decoy right there. The decoy goes hand in hand with rattling and grunting. The deer hears something, comes in, sees the decoy, this nest egg comes right on in a lot of times. So, calling, rattling, using decoy in a little neck like this can lure deer to you and helps you get a shot. I like using the decoy.
Well, these whitetails about eating my lunch this year. I've shot a deer or two, but nothing of any size, and we still got a couple days here, but it's looking pretty grim.
Well, yeah, but you think I'm going to feel sorry for you? I mean, what about that bear you got in Saskatchewan?
Well, I'll admit, that was a keeper.
Well, you told me you got a big one, but you never really told me the story behind it.
Well, I went up to an area that had not been hunted before, gun or bow. This is about far north in Saskatchewan as you can go without being in the Northwest Territories. And,
They got black bears that far north?
Oh, yeah, and big black bears.
Big is an understatement. Take a look at a week of bear action that MR and his hunting companions will never forget. It was early June when MR and guide Shane Maynard boated to a lakeside stand where bear action wasn't long in coming. This is a wild, remote land reached only by floatplane and boat. It's a fisherman's mecca, and the area's bears have little if any hunting pressure. Bruins have no fear of man and grow old and huge in this boggy, bug-infested land of dense woods and sky-blue waters. One look is all MR needs to know this is one of the biggest bears he's seen in 30 years of bear hunting across North America. But long experience has taught him not to rush the shot, to wait for the perfect broadside shooting opportunity. The bear is only 12 to 14 yards away, but the shot angle still isn't right, so MR simply waits. Easy does it. Pick an exact spot on the bear's heart-lung area and... Gotcha. MR's razor-sharp broadhead causes massive, immediate blood loss, but MR knocks an insurance arrow just in case. It's not needed. The big Bruin goes down less than 50 yards away. Regardless, MR and Shane follow the ample blood trail.
Good blood.
Oh, yeah.
Some more blood here.
Oh, yeah.
Good blood.
Good blood. Real good. Good size.
More good blood right here.
There's your bear.
All right. Okay.
Size of that head. He's a beauty boy.
I'd say he's in the 20.5-inch range at least, maybe better. Got a lot of scars, fighting over the years. Big old Saskatchewan, Northern Saskatchewan bears have a tough time up here. Only the big, strong ones survive.
Talk about a hog. Talk about a hog. Killed my first big bear 30 years ago this month, if you can believe that. 30 years. I've taken a lot of bears in that time. This is one of the best, perhaps the best. Man, just a real beauty. Just a hog. Prime pelt, gorgeous, gorgeous animal. Just tickled to death. Oh, man.
After MR's first day success, he sits behind the Bowhunter camera as Shane looks for another trophy-class Bruin while hunting from an improvised ground blind. This is a good bear, but it's not the trophy Bruin Shane's looking for. He passes up the 14-yard shot. Hunting from ground level can get interesting at times. Remember, these bears don't know what humans are and sometimes decide to check them out close and personal. That's why it's smart to keep pepper spray within easy reach, and sometimes even a small stick causes a nosy bear to have second thoughts. It's sometimes easy to forget that these big Bruins are wild, potentially dangerous animals. But bear hunters should never forget that fact. This bear was only bluffing, but when an unpredictable Bruin is only a dozen or so yards away, it's smart not to become complacent and lower your guard. You simply never know what a black bear will do next. This unpredictability is what makes bow hunting from ground level so exciting. Take a look at the footage of noted bear guide and outfitter Rob Nye that MR captured during his June bear hunt. It takes patience and a dose of courage to sit quietly while a large bear moves to a bait station only 8 short yards away. And speaking of bait, Saskatchewan law normally requires that bear bait be contained. However, Rob had earned an exemption due to the fact his hunting area is so remote and the type and amount of bait used, fish entrails, popcorn, table scraps, grease, and corn syrup, is so small by comparison with the usual bait stations. Perfect. That's one bear that won't go far. Ever wonder how such big animals can be so quiet in the woods? Let's listen as Rob explains.
It sort of shows you how those bears can walk so quietly. They just got a big spongy pad, and they can be walking around just a few yards from me and you never hear a sound. When they want to be sneaky, they can really come in on you without letting you know they're coming, that's for sure. Sometimes they just appear, and you can blink your eye and there'll be a bear standing there. It's one of the great things about hunting them. Yeah, these bears up here do a lot of fighting, and looks like this one here was on the receiving end of a swat or a bite from another bear, I think. Got just a nasty wound there on his nose, and I'm not sure how much longer this one would have made it out here with something like that. I don't know if that would have healed, but they're tough.
On the final afternoon of his week-long hunt, MR tapes Shane as tantalizing odors lure this huge bear to the bait site. By the way, that smoking bucket is emitting tempting scents designed to attract hungry Bruins. This is another true trophy black bear. Note the large head, stubby ears, and blocky body. Shane immediately knows he'll take the shot when the Bruin moves to an ideal position. Finally, the bear is quartering slightly away. Shane holds for the animal's off shoulder, and this big bear made it less than 40 yards after the shot.
What a trophy. Beautiful hide. Just proud as ever, man. The biggest bear ever I take with a bow. Taking some beautiful bears with a bow, but this is by far my best. Look at his ear. Man, both his ears. He's a beauty. I love him.
Meanwhile, as MR is telling Dwight about his Saskatchewan adventure, Jeff Waring watches the small buck move out of sight. But before climbing down, he offers a shooting tip worth remembering.
You know, bow hunting is a game of confidence, and it's so important to know that you can make the shot when you need to. Fortunately, there's some simple things that you can do to make sure that you're zeroed in. One of the things that I like to do is carry an arrow with a Zuki judo point on the end. That way, whenever I'm done hunting, I can take a shot before I get down, and I have that little bit of confidence. I know next time I get up and stand, I'll be ready.
And then we're going to play the theme song, Always Late.
How'd you do
Lefty
this morning,
guys.
young feller?
All right. Saw a small buck and a doe,
But no
but
shot.
no shots.
Really?
Beautiful morning though.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah, we were just talking about how nice and different the weather is.
Oh,
We've
for
been
sure.
reliving some of our hunts from the past year.
Yeah, I hope I didn't miss too much.
Well, you just missed a bunch of lies and talking about Larry Jones. You know, that's
Well, yeah, you don't have to lie when you're talking about him, though. It's
Well,
almost unbelievable as it is.
yeah. Well, you and Larry, I know we're up chasing mule deer in Alberta earlier this
Yeah.
year. How'd that go?
Oh, he could jinx any hunt I ever went on. In fact, he's done it to me a lot of times. We saw a lot of deer,
Uh-huh.
no question about it, yeah. Mostly a spot and stock hunt. The deer would feed at night in big alfalfa fields, and then they'd go over into these breaks. And we hunted a couple of different ways. We hunted some water holes. It was pretty dry country, and so as they'd come off the alfalfa, they'd visit a couple of springs there, and we dug one pit on a spring there.
Uh-huh.
Had some very good hunting there. As a matter of fact, we had deer right in on us. I had a couple of bucks right 15 yards below me there when I was in that pit blind.
Let's head north to Alberta and check out some of the hunting action.
But it'll be worth it, right? Hopefully. When the big 180 comes in, is that what you're promising?
That is the plan.
Easing close to groups of mule deer is a true bow hunting challenge. As a backup plan, Dwight and guide Jeff Lander establish blinds near feeding and watering sites.
All right. Okay, I got a shooting lane there. So I can get, that's 25. And then I got one here. It's 20 right there. 25.
The strategy works to perfection, but only small antlered bucks show up.
And then I had another good opportunity at a medium-sized 4-point. We had a pit blind right at the edge of a grain field, and the bucks had come up out of the coulees there, and then they come into these barley fields to feed. And I saw a doe jump the fence, and I thought she was by herself, and so I wasn't ready. And lo and behold, I had quite a bit of brush on the side they were coming from, and I didn't see it. Lo and behold, this nice 4-point jumped the fence right in front of me and stood at 20 yards. Well, he was looking right at me, but just about, and so I couldn't draw. And he walked on by and went out into the field, and so I had to turn and shoot over here, and I drew, and let's just say I shot a rock. When I released, the sparks flew right in front of me, and we'd had rocks around the blind, and I just didn't raise up quite enough. And I hit one of the rocks in the blind, and my arrow went about 200 yards straight up, and the deer went about 2 miles straight out. That was the last I saw that buck.
Never discouraged, Dwight turns to stalking challenges between his long vigils and carefully situated blinds. This forky isn't what Dwight is looking for, so he passes up the shot. Later, he's glad he did when he spies a nice muley bedded on an open side hill. Dropping to his hands and knees, Dwight tries to ease within bow range by crawling along a grassy ravine below the deer. Oops, this sharp-eyed muley sees something suspicious. Better luck next time, Dwight. Now let's listen to some valuable tips on proper optics for bow hunting open country game.
High-powered optics are your most important equipment for hunting mule deer, bighorn sheep, and other western big game. Normally on a western hunt, I'd carry 2 sets of optics. I would carry an 8-power binocular for general spotting, and I would carry a 20-power spotting scope for long-distance spotting and for sizing up distant animals. Some cases, I don't want to carry 2 sets of optics because it can be heavy, particularly when I'm backpacking or having to hike in a long ways. So I've come up with a compromise system so I can just carry 1 binocular. And this 12-power Bosch and Loma is ideal for this. It's a compromise between the 8-power and the 20-power. It's great for long-distance spotting. It's important to have a tripod, though, so you can hold it absolutely steady. I can sit for hours like this and spot animals out to 2 or 3 miles. So the 12-power is good for long distance, but it's also adequate for general spotting, and it's light enough and the power is low enough that you can hand hold it fairly well. So that's the reason I like the 12 power as a compromise. I keep it around my neck where it's handy. I can get at it quickly, keep it in a pouch here. So when you're going on a hunt where you're hiking in a long ways and you don't want to carry 2 sets of optics, try this system that I've used. I've used it very effectively for western big game, and I think it'll work for you too. It was an exciting hunt. I had a lot of fun. Spotting and stalking mule deer is a tough way to go. It's not like sitting in a tree stand or even in a ground blind.
Did you have a chance to try any blinds besides the pit?
Oh, we put a blind on the alfalfa field. We had one of the double bowl pop-up blinds.
Yeah.
They're convenient because you just 10 seconds and you got the thing set up. We had to stake it down pretty good because the wind was blowing hard. But yeah, we had quite a few deer in there too. But again, we just didn't have any of the bigger bucks come within range of it. So we had opportunities in several different situations. It was an interesting hunt because you could hunt them several ways. And we saw lots of deer, and we saw some good bucks, but we never saw any good bucks within bow range.
That kind of like the hunt that Larry Jones and I went on in Wyoming. We were chasing elk there in early September.
Yeah, he told me about that.
He
said you didn't kill one.
No, it wasn't for lack of trying or lack of opportunities. It just, you know how when you're hunting those things, everything has to fall into place. And the best chance we had, we were with Tim Dowd at Bliss Creek Outfitters, and we'd ridden about 24 miles back in the wilderness there. And this was, of course, bugling, spot and stalk. And we,
But you were there in mid-September?
it was early September, first 10, 12 days of September, something like that. And weather was great, no problem there. And there were a lot of bulls, and they were talking pretty good. Best chance I had was, probably the fourth, fifth day. We bugled in this one bull. It had rained, and he was really fired up. And he came across this open area. He walked up within 22 yards, stuck his head around a tree, and I come to full draw, and Larry's got the camera right over the shoulder, and we're thinking, step out. Well, he stepped out, but he turned and faced me, and here I am at full draw with this 6-point bull at 22 yards. And you know how tough they are to put down and you don't hit them right. I wasn't even take a frontal shot. And he stood there, and he stood there. And my arm finally starts getting a little quivery, and I had to let off. And that sucker ran out there and called him, turned right around and came back again. And he just didn't want, he had a death wish, but I couldn't oblige him. He never did give me that shot. Next to the last day, we were into elk and had all kinds of bulls around us. We had two coming in at one time, one down the hill and one from off to one side. Just didn't work out. But of course, that's hunting.
That seems to be elk hunting for most of us. Pretty average elk hunting.
Yeah.
But it can still be exciting even when you don't get one of them.
Yeah, it was a good year, all in all. I mean, you don't always fill your tag, of course, but still have some great memories and some great hunts.
Close-range encounters with running bulls can be exciting. Here's some elk calling advice from veteran guide Tim Dowd.
Hello, my name's Tim Dowd of Bliss Creek Outfitters of Cody, Wyoming. I've been a professional guide and outfitter for the past 21 years. I want to spend just a little bit of time with you and talk to you about some elk calling techniques that I found has worked really good for me. When I go to locate a bull first thing in the morning or any time during the day, I always call twice. I'll do one little call, just a short little whistle, kind of sounding like a smaller bull. So if there's a bull close, I don't blow him out of the country. Then I'll go ahead and I'll do a full-blown bugle if I don't get an answer from that. I'll give you a little demonstration of what I'm talking about. You're going to do I do the first whistle first. And then if I don't get a response, I'll go and do a full-blown bugle. Hopefully one of the two will get the elk to respond. If not, I'll go and I'll start working the timber, go to my next spot. When I'm working the timber, I'll then switch to my cow call. When I cow call, I make sure I always cow call more than once. I'll do a series of cow calls. It's rare if a cow just calls once. And at the same time, anytime you're calling, if a bull, it's the same as it's a human being that when you hear something, the first thing you do is you stop and you listen to hear where it came from, what it is exactly. An elk will do the same thing. He may have his head down, he may be feeding, he may be raking a tree, whatever the case may be, and he hears something and he stops and he listens to hear what that sound was. So you want to make sure you cow call and do your bugles and everything more than once before you move on to your other spot. So when you're working the timber, you break a twig, you make a little bit of noise as long as it's not a metal human sound. Get your cow call off through the timber and just do a series of cow calls. At the same time, remember, if you watch and notice that I'll cut my hand and take the calls different ways. An elk or a cow won't just stand at one point and call, call, call. So make sure when you call, whether you're bugling, cow calling, whatever the case may be, move your bugle around, throw your cow call around, because a bull coming in is expecting an elk to be moving also. And one last little tip I'd like to share with you. What I see that a lot of people do or don't do is call enough. Everyone seems to be call shy. I'm just the opposite. I call very aggressively, try to get the bulls worked up a lot. I do a lot of cow calling through the timber, and that seems to get the bulls to come in more at a dead run where my client has a better chance to take him.
I tell you what, I know you mentioned bears, and I'm a little jealous because I know you went to Alaska chasing those big brown bears, those Kodiaks.
Yeah, I did.
Tell me about that hunt.
Well, I definitely chased a few. I didn't shoot any though. That's the unfortunate part of that hunt. Yeah, it was a wonderful hunt. One of the best hunts I've ever been on. We were hunting with Ray Williams out of Lake Iliamna, and we were on one of the streams where the sockeye salmon spawn in late September there. So you had a pretty fair number of fish still left in the river, and so the brown bears, they come from 50 miles around and drop into this river valley and fish along the river there. And we did do some spotting and stalking in the higher valleys where there were berries, and we generally do that in the mornings, go up and spot. And I actually did stalk a couple of bears and didn't get on them, but tried to stalk them. But most of the time then in the afternoons we'd spend in our stands, tree stands along the river. Yeah, and it's comforting to be up in a tree.
That's great for bow hunting.
When you got a 10-foot bear or whatever, you want to be pretty high up. But, and we would put the stands right in the places where the fish were thickest along the banks there. And the bears just walk the banks of the rivers. It looks like ATV trails right along the edges of the river right there.
This is an ideal bow hunting setup for dangerous game. During the week, Dwight watched numerous bears fishing nearby for sockeye salmon or moving along the shoreside trails. But none of the Bruins met his 8-foot standard, so he passed up each shooting opportunity.
How many do you think you saw during your hunt?
I'd say 35 to 40 different bears.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing, and had quite a few within 10, 12 yards of my stand. Quite a few sows with cubs and several smaller boars in the 7 to 8 foot class, but I'd sort of set a standard that I was going to hold out for at least an 8-foot bear. Believe me, I was giving it a lot of thought because it's a pretty expensive hunt, probably one that I won't ever be able to do again. So I definitely wanted to fill my bear tag, but at the same time, if I was going to get one, I wanted to get a big one. You know, brown bears are supposed to be big, and so I wanted to try to get a big one. I never did get a chance at one over 8 feet, and so I passed up some slightly smaller ones, and the big one just never came within range. But we did have success. The bow hunters proved themselves on brown bears. There were 3 bow hunters in camp. Mark Buer from Bow Hunting Safari Consultants, he's the one that actually arranged the trip, and he got a nice 7.5-foot bear. And then Dr. Mark Hawkins from Florida, he had never hunted brown bears before, and he took a real nice bear that was probably 7.5 feet. And Dr. Hawkins was quite a exciting event. The bear came within about 25 yards, and it was poised on the bank to jump in for a fish, and Mark shot and missed him. And when the arrow hit on the other side of the bear ran toward his stand. Didn't hear the bow go off. It ran toward his stand, and it got up on the bank, and it was creeping along the bank to get away from that noise it heard down there by the river, and it walked right up to his tree almost. And just as it got to the tree, it maybe caught a little whiff of human scent there, and it just slowly started to turn and move away from the stand. And that's when Mark was right on him, and he let the arrow go, and it couldn't have been 4 to 5 yards from his tree at that time. And when the arrow hit, the bear roared and fell off the bank and then charged off into the brush, and it only went about 60 yards. They go down in a hurry when you hit them right. But that was quite an exciting event. I got to go in on the recovery on that one. So I saw bear fur on the ground, but I wasn't able to get one. It was pretty disappointing to me, but I have to say that just being that close to bears of that size, to that many bears, watching them fish, watching them jump in off the banks, just feeling the aura around those bear trails where they've walked up and down there, and being that close to animals of that size, that was one of the most exciting hunts I've ever been on. So even though I didn't kill a bear, I will always cherish that particular hunt as one of my favorites. Yeah.
You know, I've wanted to do that for some time. That's why I said I was a little envious of you. And fella, I don't know, maybe you know him, Randy Lilquist from down in Arizona.
Right,
He's a bowhunter down there.
Yeah.
Well, a friend had sent me a video of Randy shooting a bear. He was on a bank, and this bear was moving past below the guide, and I think Randy's son was along doing the video work. And that bear got broadside, and Randy made a perfect shot. The bear runs out, and you talk about going down in a hurry. This big old bear, it gallops out there maybe 40 yards or so and goes down. I mean, that quick. And as you say, you hit him right and go down in a hurry.
Bowhunting wild Alaska requires special clothing and footwear considerations. Let's hear some good advice from a seasoned bowhunter.
Hi, I'm Dwight Shue, editor of Bowhunter Magazine. It's late September here in Alaska. I'm hunting brown bears in the Lake Iliamna region. This time of year, you got to go prepared as far as your clothing goes. You can just get about any kind of weather from hot to constant rain. You can just about bet it's going to be damp and cold, and that's one reason I really like fleece. Fleece gives me 3 advantages in this particular kind of country. Number one, even if it does get a little damp and you get rained on a little bit, it still insulates and keeps you warm. And number two, it dries very fast, so you can hang it up in the cabin or the tent at night. The water will run out of it, and it's dry by the next morning. So it's good to have clothing that dries rapidly in this kind of damp weather. And the third reason I like it is it's so quiet. For the bears here, we're hunting 2 methods, stalking and in tree stand hunting. And when we get really close, you need to be very, very quiet. And fleece clothing is as quiet as a bear's hide itself. So that's one of the reasons I really like the fleece clothing. I like this design. This is made by Day One Camouflage. It's got nice big pockets here, got leg pockets, and it's got a nice high collar you can turn up to keep the bugs off the back of your neck, keep the wind off. And so this design works really well. And I like a lot of other fleece features here too. This is a little pouch made by Day One for the rangefinder. You can see I can just pull my rangefinder out, take a quick reading, and slip it back in there, and it makes no noise in the fleece pouch. I also have a fleece pouch for my binoculars so I can slide them in and out very quickly and have them ready to use right there on my chest. That pretty well outfits you for hunting Alaska during this soggy weather. One other feature you probably want to add is some Alaskan sneakers like I have on here. You can see this is pretty soggy country. You're going to get wet feet if you don't have some kind of rubber boots. And one other thing that you probably don't want to forget, especially on a day like this, is your bug net. So I think I'm going to put this thing on to keep these black flies out of my ears. And then I'm going to move on and see if I can find myself a brown bear. Good hunting to you.
Even if you don't fill your tags, you still got a lot of great memories on a lot of hunts, and you do get lucky once in a while.
Well, yeah, you got lucky as I recall. I mean, knowing you, it probably was luck, but anyway.
A lot of people.
No, I know you put a lot of effort into it. when you went up to British Columbia and hunted bison up there. Now that's a hunt that I'd like to do sometime.
Well, you should. You really should.
And talk about big. You're talking about brown bears being big and furry. Now that bison is bigger and furrier yet. I gotta know more about that, because sometime that's a dream I have of hunting bison. Tell me about it.
Well, essentially, Pope and Young Club worked with the Department of Fish and Game up there in British Columbia to open up this one unit to bow hunting only. And they give out a very limited number of licenses. But Glenn Heisey is the records chairman of Pope and Young, went up there with Nathan Anderson the year before last, and each one of them got a nice bull. And so they've upped to where you can get 5 bow licenses a year.
Wow.
A friend of mine from Kalispell, Montana, Dirk Eddy, and Bob Delaney from Greenwich, Connecticut, another Pope and Young member, we met up there, and we all got good bulls. And those things are big. I mean, figured some of those bulls would go 2,000 pounds on the hoof. And it's all spot and stock, it's all fair chase. They introduced about 50 head back in the 60s.
So these aren't native to that area?
No. They introduced them, they brought them in, and I'm not sure where they came from, but they turned them loose on this one area up there, and now they figure there's between 2,000 and 3,000 head.
Wow. Now, I view bison as being plains animals, but yet British Columbia isn't plains as far as I know.
This unit's about halfway between Fort St. John and Fort Nelson, and it's mountains, and it's a lot like moose country or elk country.
So they're just out in the thick spruce trees?
They are, and of course, we were hunting this ranch.
This is the sort of trophy bull MR and his hunting partners are after. Following an afternoon tour of the Pink Mountain Ranch and a good night's sleep, the 3 bow hunters discover that hunting action is not long in coming. Dirk and his guide spot 2 good bulls moving along thick brush at the edge of a large horse pasture. Dirk moves into ambush position ahead of the bison, but the bulls unaccountably reverse directions. Dirk decides to take the initiative. Using feeding horses for cover, he eases into bow range, draws, and releases an arrow. A perfect shot. The big bull is literally dead on his feet. He gallops ahead, then angles into the brush, and soon piles up among the trees.
What a buffalo.
Later that same afternoon, with MR still manning the Bowhunter video camera, Bob Delaney stalks close to a herd of bison on another part of the ranch. Keeping to the shadows with the breeze in his face, Bob moves close to the feeding herd and ranges the yardage. Easy does it. The arrow hits home, but bison are big, tough animals. Although mortally wounded, Bob's big bull angles away. Bob makes a follow-up shot, hitting the bull in the left ham. Hurrying after his bull, which moves back along the tree line, Bob cuts ahead of the hard-hit bison.
Oh man, what a bull, what a bull.
nips an animal. Wow. Hunt of a lifetime, and an animal for a lifetime to remember you.
Now it's MR's turn. But it is late the following day before his chance comes. A solitary bull is sighted by the guides along the halfway river at the far end of the Pink Mountain Ranch. The huge animal, a loner called a gypsy bull by native hunters, was feeding in a dense willow thicket when MR and his guide eased within 20 yards. But dense brush prevented a close-range shot. Finally, the bull sensed danger and bolted, but soon settled down again. A long, circular stalk has finally put MR within 40 yards. He takes his time, ranges the distance, settles his nerves, and makes the shot. He's down. This 1-ton gypsy bull makes a perfect 3 for 3.
Thank you, Lord.
Yeah, when you get something like that down, I mean, you got to have a mound of meat. Did you pack him out on your back?
Oh yeah, right. Sure. No, we had a couple pack horses, thank goodness, and it took better part of a morning. But man, I tell you, there's some great eating there.
I can imagine a lot of it too.
Oh yeah, yeah. And speaking of eating,
oh yeah, there comes a truck.
Let's get our gear and go have some chow.
Sounds like it's lunchtime to me. Well, maybe we'll have better luck this afternoon.
Yeah, still time.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this edition of Bowhunter's Ultimate Hunting Adventures video collection. We look forward to bringing you more exciting bow hunting adventures in the future. Until then, hunt safely and ethically, and good luck in the field.
Rocky Mountain Broadheads from Berry Archery provide the edge you need with a broadhead you can trust. When your hunt is on the line, you need a surgically sharp broadhead that's tough. So count on Rocky Mountain Broadheads. Whatever the terrain, whatever the conditions, choose Day One Camouflage. Available in a variety of fabrics and patterns. Day One Camouflage helps you get closer to game than you ever have before. For all your camouflage needs, Day One Camouflage. Bow hunters around the world choose Easton products. The #1 arrow company offers a variety of shaft sizes with the Easton seal of consistency to guarantee that every one of your arrows flies true, because nothing else cuts it. The world's most accurate shafts from Easton. Today's top bow hunters hunt with confidence because they are shooting a Mathews bow. Mathews is the leader in technical innovations. From the original solo cam design to the harmonic dampening system, Mathews is also the pioneer of the parallel limb design, which means a smoother shooting bow. Mathews, catch us if you can. When you need to practice for your next hunt, use a Mackenzie target. These high-performance bow hunting practice targets are unequaled in quality and design. Practice like the pros with Mackenzie targets. Don't waste your time or money on inferior contraptions that will let you down in the field. Insist on the 30-plus years of experience that only Golden Key can offer. Rests this good should cost a lot more. Golden Key Futura, the Arrow Rest Specialists. If the folks at Bushnell have learned anything over the last 50 years, it's this: never leave anything to chance. So when it counts, use Bushnell Yardage Pro rangefinders and optics. Double bull blinds put you where the action is. Easy to set up in just 6 seconds. Double bull blinds offer a large shooting diameter and sight windows made with the bow hunter in mind. And with the blackback interior, you will go undetected in your double bull blind. Summit Specialties offer a complete line of climbers, hang-on stands, and ladders that allow you to quickly and safely get into position to bag your next trophy. No matter which way you go, Summit will be there, solid and steady. Contact Summit for a free catalog today. For point-blank, pulse-pounding bow hunting action, read Bowhunter Magazine. It'll make you a better bow hunter, guaranteed. Whether deer hunting whitetails close to home or traveling to distant hunting camps, you'll get the information and advice needed to succeed. Join the adventure. Learn proven hunting secrets from the Bowhunter pros. Share the knowledge and hunting thrills. When it comes to bow hunting, no magazine beats Bowhunter. Let Bowhunter Magazine experts teach you when, where, and how to get your game, and how to get maximum performance from your favorite bow, arrows, and broadheads. Check out the newest products that will help you fill your tags season after season. Join the Bowhunter action today. Call 1-800-508-7932. If you like what you see, Bowhunter will send you 5 more regular issues plus 3 big special issues for only $19.95. Call today and you'll also receive these special bonus items from Bowhunter Magazine absolutely free. Call 1-800-508-7932 now to get a free issue headed your way. Hey, stop making excuses. Don't let another big one get away. Get Bowhunter and then get busy bagging the trophy of a lifetime.